Welcome to Builds with Blocks, a show centered around the micro action figures and brick-based construction sets of the Halo universe. I'm your host Tom Fishenden, and I'm joined by Colin Perkins.
I'm the anonymous goose.
Oh, shit.
Matt Salvatore.
Ahoy, ahoy. How we doing, gentlemen?
And we are joined by a special guest today, Goodwill Hunter, also known as Rich.
Greetings, programs. I thought I'd establish my nerd credentials right up front by quoting Tron.
Excellent.
We're off to a good start. I like it. So Goodwill Hunter is an old hand when it comes to the Halo building blocks community, Rich, you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I believe you were the first person to win one of Mega's old Global Builders community toolboxes.
You are correct, sir.
Perfect. So that was back in 2014, and that was an initiative which Mega have since left behind, but we are excited to revisit that as a part of today's episode as we talk all things custom builds throughout the episode. So before we get into the main topic of the show, let's chat about what we've been up to on the blocks front. Matt, we'll start with you. What have you been building?
Ooh, I actually haven't done much in Halo. This past couple of weeks have been very centered around DC and the DC universe and all the DC goodness that we got at DC Fandom. So I have picked up some DC Legos. So I just picked up the Batman, I think it's called the Batman Joker Trike Chase or something like that. It's a really good set. Adding some different variations in the cape. So you're able to have different cape designs of Batman, so that's kind of neat. But yeah, not too much in Halo. So just a lot of DC and a lot of hallelujahs.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, obviously you've released a couple of stop motions recently, so how have you felt about the reception that they've got? Because they seem to have really taken off.
Yeah, I just released a newer one. I think it was the Hunt the Banished one on that one. So that one's came out. A lot of always positive comments. They're amazing, guys, and thank you so much for those. So, and I did release a couple on my channel. I did release some more DC-centered ones in the spirit of the week. So those have gotten a lot more reception because I put them on Twitter, and they got a lot more reception on Twitter because most of the fandom is on there, and YouTube it's not as prevalent, but yeah, Twitter got a lot of reaction from it.
Nice.
Oh, cool. Good, yeah, that's good to hear. Colin, what about you? Have you been building anything?
Not much building, mostly hunting these days. I've been dreaming about getting a second 20-in-1 Scorpion tank. I keep checking.
Oh, nice.
I keep checking the prices online. They're just
they're
like double the MSRP
outrageous
right now. So like, come on, when are these things going to come down? I don't know if they're going to or not. But so I'm looking for another one of those. I would love to have another one of those in my arsenal. I still haven't built my first one, but I at least just want to have two secured.
Yeah.
But no, I've been.
I'd like to have one, to be
Well, right, I know.
Oh, sheesh.
I have been the Lego came out with the Super Mario stuff, and my 6-year-old that's like in my 6-year-old's wheelhouse, right? And he has they sent us a magazine. I don't think I signed up for it, but they had a magazine of like all of the sets, and so I have started grabbing a couple of those, just thinking about Christmas coming up, and he has shown interest in it, so. So I'm gonna kind of hopefully kind of roll those out to him for Christmas and afterwards. It's been fun to see and collect. I did open one for myself just to see how Mario worked, and it's kind of cool, But I'm not a 6-year-old, so I think he'll have more fun with it than I will. But so I'll report back on that, after the holidays and stuff like that to see how that worked out. But on the Halo side, I have been able to find some of the infinite blind bags,
Nice.
multiple Walgreens visits because they haven't quite hit Target. Maybe by the time this episode gets out there, they are, the boxes are in Targets, but at the time in August, as we're recording this, it's mostly just Walgreens, and Walgreens has like 3 or 4 on the rack in the store. So I've just I've grabbed those. And I haven't got the full set yet. I have 4. So I have the Gungnir. I have the Elite. I have the Camo Chief, which I was happy to get Camo Chief. I have a couple of Camo Chief, if all the numbers should be right. And then I have the Mark 7, the blue. I'll call it indigo blue, because once you open it and you experience it, it's actually a pretty sweet color. So I'm enjoying that. But I'm happy with all. I wasn't happy I got the Elite right away. And I remember we talked about in the last episode, I wasn't crazy about having the Elite and the Grunt as the enemy options in. But the Elite's actually really nice. I think once we all get these things in our hands and we have a conversation, I think you guys will appreciate it too. It's very nice. So I'm liking that. I like that it has a sword that feels like classic Elite, weapon. The Gungnir is actually a female body. Did you guys know that?
I did not.
Yeah, I couldn't tell from the art either online, but it is a female body, which is cool. And I'm all about something about this helmet, and maybe I just wasn't. Was it in reach originally, and I just didn't. I didn't realize it because I just didn't, play reach in the moment. But I really like this. We have what 3 or 4 different Gugnirs, and I'm liking it. And the color's good. I like that they have the different sex, which is good. We just need more of that in Halo, and I'm happy with it. And the Camo Chief is pretty sweet too. So Camo Chief, nice. I'm very happy with that, and I think some people can do some cool things with that, either in art or Matt, maybe with your stop motion stuff. Man. Overall, I'm happy with that. What I've found so far. So I'll be on the hunt for the other 4, and hopefully I'll report back in the next episode, and we'll have everything in our hands.
Cool. And then Rich, what about you? Have you managed to find anything recently?
Yeah, I have been doing some hunting. I've been going to Walgreens as well. I found a number of the sets. I was lucky enough to find the Pelican, which is a nice little micro build, and the Gummy, the blue Gummy.
Oh, you did? Nice.
And then I also picked up some of the set pieces, the ring section from Target, and then I got the energy sword.
Yeah.
And I took some tiny Christmas lights I'd found at Goodwill a while back, and I was able to thread them through the brick, so I have an actual illuminated sword now.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
So is it always on, or is it blinking? I saw somebody did a blinking one, but you just have it where it's either on or off?
Yes, I don't have the blinking option.
I like that. Nice.
Yeah, it turned out cool.
What did you think about that build?
I think it's fantastic. It's really sturdy. You can swing it around. Yeah. It's not going to fall apart. I mean, you can't hit anything with it, but if you're just moving it through the air, it's very solid. It much more sturdy than it would seem to be just by looking at it and how thin it is. So, very impressed with the build.
Cool.
I'm happy to hear that. That's nice.
Yeah, cool. Have you been up to anything else? Have you got any projects in the works at the moment, or are you kind of waiting to get your hands on more stuff?
I'm looking forward to finding that helmet. I really want to try the little micro helmet that's coming out. Mm-hmm. And then once things go on sale, I'll buy 4 more of those ring section sets and build an entire Halo ring.
Nice.
I don't want to drop the money on that because I'm guessing that's going to be one of the sets that gets discounted at Target at some point, since it's not a vehicle or...
Right.
Yeah, and then in terms of just other, I don't know if you guys do any Gundam stuff, but I found some Gundams at Goodwill a few weeks ago, and I've been putting those together as well. So, yeah, my basement is beautiful.
I've always been Gundam curious. At some point, I feel like I'm going to get into a Gundam rabbit hole, but I haven't hit it yet.
Yeah, they're amazing models. I mean, you think back, I think back to when I was a kid making plastic models. They're horrible. Yeah. The fit was bad, and you had to glue and hold them together. These things go together with no glue, and they're actual working mechanisms that they put together with no glue, and they're just fantastic.
Are they painted too, or they leave it so you are the painter? As
the builds are color accurate, but most people do what's called lining, where you get these little thin markers and you put accents in all the panel lines, and then a lot of people do weathering, get a black paint and put like grease marks and battle damage and whatnot.
Right.
But if you just want to build them stock, they still look great. They look like they came right out of the factory, but you can also weather them as well.
That's awesome.
That's cool. I like that, yeah. I know my friend has just started collecting some, they're like snap-together fighter jet models, and they're really cool because they're like a similar principle where you literally like have to use nothing, and yet you get these models which have got really cool functionality to them just with the way they're kind of put together from all the individual pieces. So it's something that I may look at picking up at some point. However, collecting Jurassic eats into my budget quite a bit.
Did any of you guys get the Warthog or the Pelican, those models that they put out a couple years back?
Oh, the Revel ones?
Yeah.
No, I saw them, but I never picked them up.
I got the Pelican, and I like it. And it has a little sound action as well, and it's a good accurate representation of the Pelican. So yeah, I was happy with that. I decided not to get the Warthog. Yeah, hopefully we get more of that stuff at a Halo.
Yeah.
Nice.
Really quick, I just remembered I did get one more set. I did make it to a Dollar General, and I did find the little turret, the Banish turret.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
With the little grunt and whatnot, and it's a cute little set. It's very good actually. The turret itself is surprisingly, I don't know, fun is maybe a good accurate. Like the feet or the legs of the turret actually move around a little bit, which is cool. Yeah, so I would say that's definitely worth a look if you do have a Dollar General, if you can get your hands on that. It is in playing Halo Wars 2 for mission debrief. There are a few different spots. Like it is game accurate turret. Like I do remember seeing, that's a weird little turret there, but I think Mega Construx is coming out with a set that is exactly that. So they did use in-game assets to create that.
That's cool. Awesome.
Yeah, that's great to hear. In terms of what I've been up to, I have just opened up the San Diego Comic-Con pack, which...
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of been an experience trying to give that the level of quality that it deserves in terms of photography with it and kind of capturing the figures. So at the time of recording this, we're right in the middle of working on a review for that set, but hopefully when this drops, you guys might have seen the review at that point of that set, and we're kind of aiming to create a really, really nice showcase. It kind of just shows how cool these figures are, 'cause some of the paint ups on them are really kind of next level, even going beyond what the Halo heroes do. And I think kind of the best example of that for me is probably the Halo 2 Chief, because he's kind of that really, really bright, vibrant green that you see in Halo 2 Anniversary. But then he's got this black wash on him that really helps to kind of almost elevate, I would say, all of the details, to really kind of make them pop. So I'm excited to work on bringing that review to life and to share those photos of that set.
How did you feel opening that thing? I'm curious, because I mentioned on the last episode when I got
it. I was a monster.
Yeah, right. You don't want to open that thing, right?
No, I mean, it's interesting. So the way Mega have designed it, you could quite easily put most of it back in the box. So the box itself has got like little studs inside where you pose the figures, and the way they lock in, you can kind of remove everything without having to permanently damage the box. The only thing it kind of, even with the weapons actually, I think I managed to remove them in a way where the casings are still there if I wanted to put them back in. So it's not really like, I don't know, it's not a case of one and done and once you open it, that's it. But what I will say is there's a little booklet inside with information on all of the armors, and I got too excited when I opened it and tore it a little bit. No. And I was like, oh no.
That's a bummer. Did you have like a sterile environment when you're opening it, and like no music, tweezers?
I didn't go that far, no.
A blade.
No, because saw to it and was like, oh yeah, this will do.
Yeah, it's cut in half.
Yeah.
Just touching on the photos, though, I have seen the photos that you've taken, and they are amazing. The detail that you put into that is fantastic. So I'm excited to see what you do when you tie the whole review together.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, Matt.
No worries, man.
I'm really, to be honest with you, I'm kind of at the point where I'm quite happy with how all of the review style photos are coming together now. Like, I feel like I've got my lighting set up in my room to a good point now, so I'm excited to not only do this, but hopefully some written reviews on the website a little bit closer to Infinite's launch as well with some of the other sets. I think that wraps it up for me, and I don't have the luxury of now handing over to somebody else.
You gotta keep this train running.
Yeah,
now.
I do. I've got to keep us going. So we will move right into the main topic for today, which is obviously talking to you, Rich. So thank you so much for coming on the show today. Before we kind of jump into talking about Mega, what we try and do is get a little bit of background from our guests to kind of find out where their connection with Mega, but more specifically Halo, has come from. So to start with, it would be quite interesting to hear a little bit about your history with Halo and how long you've been playing these games.
Your great journey, so to speak.
My wife wouldn't call it that. I'm literally a gamer from way back. Some people say that, but I really mean it. My first system was an Atari 2600 when I was a kid, which I still have. And I pretty much have every system between now and then. As a matter of fact, I just picked up a game yesterday that put me at the Damien times 10 level, which is 6,660 games in my collection.
Whoa.
That's nuts. So all physical?
Yes, all cartridge or disc-based for home consoles.
That's wild. Nice.
And handhelds.
So where do you keep all that stuff?
In my room and in my basement. Basically, in my house, it's divided between my bedroom, which was a condition of buying our house, that I had a room to myself. Because in our first house, when my daughters were born, I got unceremoniously moved into the basement. So I have a room for my gaming, and then the basement, and then my garage where I can put everything else. And the rest of the house belongs to my wife. And
right.
You'd have no idea that what goes on if you don't go into those three rooms.
So the games are displayed, the cartridges, or are they boxed up too?
Everything's displayed.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Nice. Very cool.
I do a lot of custom building of shelves along with custom building of Mega Bloks. So
you'll have to share some of photos so that we can show that off if you don't mind.
I would be happy to.
Excellent. And if Cary Grant comes for your collection, don't let him.
But the term Goodwill Hunter comes from my video gaming. When I first had to come up with a handle when I started going on the internet, that made sense to me because I do love to go to thrift stores and rummage sales, and that's where the vast majority of my collection came from. I'm also a Mac enthusiast, so I was playing Marathon on the Mac back in the early 90s, which was Bungie's early game. And so when they were coming out with Halo, I made it a point to pick up an Xbox and try Halo and fell in love with the game. So I've been playing Halo since launch. But in terms of Mega Bloks, I hadn't really done anything since I was a kid with Legos. But then one day on a game hunt in a Goodwill, I found the first Warthog set for $3.
Nice.
And I put it together and fell in love with the damn thing. It was just so cool to be able to put that together and have it from the game. And so then I made a point to pick up all the sets I could find, usually used on discount. And that's, again, part of the Goodwill Hunter theme. I'm very much a cheap SOB. So I'm always looking for a deal. So when I was picking up these sets, I'm a huge Halo Wars fan. That's probably my favorite game in the series.
Oh, nice.
Even
one
from
or two.
the one.
Oh, nice.
Sergeant Forge is probably my favorite figure in the entire Halo series.
Good choice, yeah.
Which is why I'm so upset that the figures they've done of him look nothing like the in-game model of Sergeant Forge.
He's got a beard, though, or so.
It's the uncanny Forge.
Right.
I mean, yeah, with that figure, usually the second iteration is better than the first one. Not in Forge's case.
Yeah. It doesn't look like anyone so much as it does Andrew Sparks, the former VP of Mega Bloks, who I've had the pleasure to meet. I don't know if that was an accident or intentional, but
coincidence.
Yes,
I think not.
But I started playing around with the Mega Bloks, and I built models as a kid. I thought my job when I grew up would be doing special effects work for George Lucas, and of course that never panned out. But I just like creating models, and Mega Bloks is such a great medium to do that because you can literally do anything with it. And I've been having a blast with it for 10 years now.
What was the hog that you picked up? Do you remember the first one?
The very first Warthog, the 2009 or 2010 model, just the basic green model
the
with
first one. Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
That's the one that Matt, you grabbed that, right?
That was my first set.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so obviously you said that kind of 10 years, so you've really been collecting from the start. In that kind of window of time, has there ever been a set that's popped up as being your favourite and has stood out against all of the others?
Oh, boy. In terms of a stock set, I really love the Mammoth. I just thought they did such a great job with that set, and there's just some really clever building techniques in there. That was a joy to build. Some of those big sets seemed like a slog, but I just had fun from beginning to end of that set. It was really a blast to build.
That's good to hear, yeah. I mean, that's one of the signature series sets that I didn't pick up because I think at the time I was spending so much money on other stuff. But I look back at that and I always think of that as kind of the underrated one, because obviously you had the Forward Unto Dawn come out first, and then everyone was like, oh, it's going to be a Covenant set next, and when it was the Mammoth, everyone was kind of like, it's okay. But actually, looking back at that, it's a really, really cool build, and actually there's like a lot of interior space to that, even though it's not to scale, that you can do a lot of stuff with.
Yeah, it's a monster.
Yeah, it's definitely one I might have to track down one day. And on the subject of tracking stuff down as well, I was interested. So obviously you've kind of been collecting as long as I have, if not longer, Rich. So is there anything that you've kind of missed out on in that window that you'd really like to get your hands on at some point?
Your white whale.
Boy, I'm trying to think if there's a set that I haven't got, and nothing really comes to mind.
Really?
I do buy quite a bit of crap.
So you might, or do you do an inventory? Do you know everything you have, or I guess do you have all of the sets, all of the figures?
Not all the figures. I'm more of a build person myself.
Okay.
And I snap up the figures I like, but I don't go for complete figure series, or
okay.
I should probably trade some of the figures I have from some of the sets that I don't use anymore.
Yeah.
But no, I'm more of the sets guy, and that's why I require a basement and a room and a garage to display all this stuff.
Right. Do you grab the figure or the army packs, like all of those what do they call, the fire teams and stuff like that, or do you pass on that stuff?
Army builders.
Yeah.
I pick them up when they're on sale.
Okay.
Which is how I get most of the fodder for doing customs and whatnot. When a set drops in price, I have a pretty good eye for when it's hitting bottom, and then I pick up a few of them. So, yeah, I've got a bunch of stuff stored away if I ever need it. I should probably share it with the community, but I'm kind of lazy and selfish in that way,
Yeah.
so it's sitting in boxes somewhere.
That's all right. It's a retirement plan.
So good. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, and at least you do cool stuff with all the stuff you get, so I don't think anyone can argue against that either way. So yeah, I feel like you've kind of given us quite a nice little snapshot at who you are and how you've got into this. So I really kind of want to get into the main topic already, because it's something that I think is going to be a lot of fun to talk about. So right into it, basically. At what point, after getting that first Warthog, did you kind of decide that you wanted to start creating your own sets? When did that kind of happen?
Well, I picked up a Wraith set at Goodwill, and
Yeah.
it wasn't complete, so I couldn't build the whole Wraith. And one of my favorite vehicles, I think it's Halo 2, that introduced the Revenant.
Yeah.
And I just love that level because I could basically snipe with that thing. I'm not a charge in and shoot everyone kind of person. I tend to be a sniper. And it was a fun vehicle with that rear cannon to be able to take out the enemies from long distance.
The Revenant, I think, was Reach. I think Spectre is Halo 2.
Yeah, the Revenant is the Ghost Wraith hybrid. The Spectre is kind of that 4-man turret in the back seat.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This is a little 2-man vehicle with the one cannon that pops up.
Yeah,
It's got the
that's
wings in the
Revenant.
front.
Yeah.
That's a Revenant from Reach. Yep.
Oh, that was in Reach. Okay. Yeah, I just started playing around with the Wraith pieces, and a Revenant came together. And
Oh, that's cool.
I made a mistake in terms of I was looking at the Lego community where everyone was selling instructions for their custom builds. So I spent a month putting instructions together for the Revenant build, and then tried to sell it, which was not met with too much enthusiasm from the Mega Bloks community. It seems I'm not the only cheap SOB in the universe But so then I reintroduced myself, put the instructions out for free. I was on this at the time. I was on a site called Spartan Blocks, and then
what a throwback.
the Blocks forum. So
Yeah.
that's where I kind of introduced myself to the community, and I think I'm trying to think how it got posted as Build of the Week. There was some sort of company fan forum at that point, and I posted a picture on there, and it got posted as Fan Pick of the Week. So that's how I came onto Mega Bloks radar.
Cool. I do just want to say off the back of that Spartan Blocks mention, shout out to Paul Knack, who used to run Spartan Blocks. That was a really, really fun website. And Matt and Colin, I don't know if you guys will have ever been part of it or will remember it, but essentially before Mega had their own forums, that and the Blocks forums were the places to be to talk about Mega Bloks and Mega Construx and kind of all that sort of stuff. So it's nice to kind of reminisce on that a little bit.
A little nostalgia.
Yeah, nostalgia that means nothing to either of you, but you know.
Was that forum on the official Mega Bloks website?
No, they were both independent forums.
Okay, all right, then I know nothing about it.
Yeah. But really active, really supported by the community. People were posting builds all the time. You got lots of feedback on the builds. It was just a lot of fun to do, and I really miss it.
Yeah, it was really good. And I remember they used to, kind of in a way that the current Mega Forum functions now, there always used to be like wish list threads. And I think I got to the point where I was a bit notorious for always coming up with ideas that Mega would never make, but I was always like, yeah, I want them to do this. And it was just a really good place to kind of get everything that you needed. So, yeah, that was fun. So, obviously, I feel like for me, Rich, I've kind of got the advantage of having been in the community while you've been doing all of these builds. So I've been lucky enough to see you kind of come out with all of these different things. But for anyone who is listening and is perhaps newer to the community, has maybe only come in with Mega Construx, could you maybe highlight a few of your favourite builds and kind of talk a little bit about the processes we're making those?
I was looking at a document I put together when I talked to Mega, kind of a portfolio, and starting out, all these builds are kind of done by what I was able to get my hands on.
Yeah.
I found a pair of the Arctic Warthogs, and I built a Arctic Warthog half track. Got a hold of an extra elephant set in the beginning, which gave me a lot of green blocks, and I started building I did some research and found all the concept vehicles from Halo Wars that weren't used. The Cougar, the Fox Cannon, and started building those. That was fun. The Rhino that appeared there. I also got a pair of Scorpion sets and built a Rhino from the kind of desert camo Scorpion sets. But literally just finding these sets that weren't out there that I wanted to see, I went through and started building them. So some of the ones I've built that ended up becoming sets, I built the broadsword from a set of 3 short sword sets I got again on clearance at Target. Built the Scarab from a bunch of Covenant sets, Phantom, a couple of the anti-air gun sets, the Locust sets.
Oh, wow.
And that was a fun, complex, crazy build that turned out really nice, and ended up, that's kind of what got Mega's attention, and I ended up working with them on the actual released build.
Really?
Yep.
That's awesome.
So talk about how you came up with the designs and whatnot. Were you just tinkering? Did you
talk us through that.
Iterate? Like, did you just kind of like, this kind of looks like what it would be, or like, I'm interested to see how you came up with your ideas and the actual builds.
When I'm building someone else's design, what I do is I try to find as many images as possible of the builds. And as I was going through my paperwork before I was talking with you guys, I found copies of all these builds, the paperwork I do. Sometimes it'd be 20 or 30 images from all the different angles I could find, and then literally I would just start building, trying to match what was on the paper with Mega Bloks. And it was always so funny when Mega Bloks would come out with a build that I had done previously. People would say, "Oh man, they're ripping off your design," and I'm saying, "No, it's just the design from the game. They're building it from blocks as well."
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. So it just like made sense to you, essentially, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, and I'd like to say there's some magic process to it, but it really is finding as many pictures as you can, and then going through a process of finding what blocks allow you to match what you see in those pictures.
Mm-hmm. Have you talked to any of the designers at Mega about their actual process, from a professional standpoint?
Yeah, when the Scarab project came up, they actually invited me up to Montreal, which was really cool. And I met with them. I met with Andrew Sparks. He was the one who gave me a call and invited me up. They gave me a tour of the plant, which was amazing.
Yeah.
Showed me their 3D prototyping and the actual production facilities they had in-house, which again was sad to hear that they were shutting that down.
Yeah.
It was a really neat operation and a bunch of neat people up there.
Right.
But I met with the design team, and we just talked about what the process was. A lot of them were primarily French speakers, so it was a little bit difficult to communicate. I remember one question in particular while we were talking. This one gentleman asked me, "Do you have any friends?" And I took this to mean, you spend so much time doing this, do you have any friends in your life? But what he was trying to ask, do you have any friends that also build with you on these programs?
Right.
Uh-huh.
But I actually took a build. I felt bad because when he said that, I laughed out loud.
Oh, sure.
Because I literally thought he was asking me if I had any friends at all. And I think he was a little bit taken aback. I felt kind of bad after that. But no, they were very welcoming. And we just talked about building and what they do in a build. Apparently, weight was a very big factor for them.
Yeah.
Sure.
A lot of my builds are solid, and apparently they go through a very rigorous process once they get a design of trying to reduce the weight as much as possible, because that's just literally money for them, the heavier the build is. But I brought up a build that I had not shown to anyone at that point. That was the CCS Battlecruiser, the Covenant capital ship.
Oh.
And I showed that to them, and they got very excited about that, and they asked for permission to weigh it and photograph it. So they took it off, and I didn't see it for a half an hour. I was getting worried that I wasn't going to come back. And that was another thing, getting that through Canadian Customs. I was worried that it was going to be seen as some sort of weird device or something and to get confiscated, but I was
alien technology.
I was able to.
So how many sets did you bring up?
Just that one.
Oh, okay.
I had to break it in half to fit it in luggage, and then I reassembled it before the meeting and kind of popped it out and threw it on the table. And they were very excited, and I thought they'd be building one right away. And it's kind of a shame that in the 7 years since I've been there, they have not come out with a Covenant capital ship. Yeah. It's really a shame that they haven't.
We want one.
I remember, I think it was around the time that the NMPD Pelican was coming out, there were a lot of rumours that there was one in development and it was going to be the Truth and Reconciliation, but then it just never happened for whatever reason, which is a shame, because I feel like when you've got obviously the Forward Unto Dawn and now the Infinity, it just makes sense for them to have something to go toe-to-toe with.
Mm-hmm. They lost the truth part of it.
And yeah, I wonder if part of that happens to do that it's such a flat build compared to some of the other ones. They seem to be really keen on having a play area in all these ships. In fact, one of the designers told me I should put a play area in this ship, and I ended up hollowing out the nose so you could just sit a Covenant pilot in that front of the ship. Obviously, no real connection to where that happens in the ship. Right. But hopefully they're realizing that the adult audience is in some ways more important to them than the kids audience, and just coming out with a really nice model, I think will get them more sales.
It feels like they are with this latest run. There's 3 collectible sets that are more shelf pieces than playable sets. It feels like more than what I've seen in any wave. So I mean, they do the helmets and stuff like that. I was going to ask you, Rich, what do you think about the micro build stuff that they've come out with? Have you toyed around with micro builds, or are you more like thinking about to scale?
I've actually done a ton of micro builds, and I was just, when those little helmet sets came out a number of years back, I love those things to death. I've got all of them. I even built a micro set based on the Wasp that came out from Toys R Us. The micro build of that. Yeah. I made a micro build of the Grunt Goblin. And then I painted a helmet purple and made a whole little set and whatnot. But I've done micro builds of, I think there's a whole video on YouTube just of micro builds. I took the stock Warthog from the helmet set and I built out the missile version, the transport version, the Goshawk, and then I built a micro Scorpion, micro Cobra, micro Scarab. I even built a micro Halo ring, which is basically just a bunch of segments linked together with colored pieces on the inside representing the landscape. But yeah, I love the micro concept, just the creativity that forces you to work with a few pieces as possible and come up with something that looks good.
Were they to scale? So like was the Scorpion to scale with the micro Warthog, or were they just both kind of the same size?
No, they well, yeah, I guess looking at it, the Scorpion probably is close to, nah, it's hard to do scale on a micro build because you're so limited by the pieces you're working with. Mm-hmm. I built a version of the Longsword Bomber micro build that is about the same size as the Scorpion micro build. And then I built a, now I'm blanking on the name, the Vulture, a micro Vulture, and that's twice as big as any other mini build, just because I was limited by the fact that the missile heads were the single round dots, and then that dictated what the rest of the size of the ship was.
Sure.
Yeah, you can only go so small.
And yeah, the new Pelican micro build with the Infinity set is really well done. It's a very nice micro build, so that's the most rare one, but if you can get your hands on it, it's a very nice little build.
Yeah, it looks good, I think.
I did do some micro spaceships from the Star Trek line when Mega came out with the Star Trek stuff. I did an Enterprise and a Klingon and a Romulan Warbird and a Borg Cube. So those were fun as well.
That's awesome.
So obviously we're a Halo show, but I do have to say I always enjoy seeing your other builds as well. So that Star Trek bridge, when you came out and put that set together in a perfect circle, I was just like, oh my god, this is so cool. And all that kind of stuff has kind of piqued my interest because obviously, as you guys know and anyone listening knows, I am one of the younger community members, so I wasn't around to watch the CBS original show, but somehow I have ended up with both of the troop packs from here now, and I've also got Spock just from seeing like all of the cool builds and things that people have done with it and thinking that actually I want to get some of it as well.
Yeah, it's a shame they didn't go farther with the Star Trek line. There was a lot of potential, and I don't know if it was bad sales, but a shame they didn't do more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was one of those things where it's like you kind of have to lean into the older collector audience, and I think they did that to some degree. But it's some certain brands it just doesn't, probably just doesn't take off with as much.
Yeah. So I guess for a lot of people listening who perhaps are wondering for where they can see these mocks, because obviously we mentioned things like Spartan blocks, but obviously unfortunately that doesn't exist anymore. So where would be the best place for people to go and kind of look at all of these builds, Rich?
Probably my YouTube channel. I've got maybe 20 or 30 videos up there. The compilation ones have most of the builds in them. The one I did back in 2012 has 25 custom builds, and then I did one in 2016 that has 50 custom builds in it. And the second one is an hour long, so grab some popcorn if you watch that one. But I've done a few videos since then. Some of the military builds. I did a World War II plane, the Lightning, but sadly with the demise of Spartan blocks, there's no set. I've been meaning to do a website, but again, I enjoy doing the builds too much to put together a website to have all these pictures on, which is probably a bad thing. But I think if you just search on Goodwill Hunter on YouTube, I should come up. I think my actual name is GW Hunter 1 because someone already had Goodwill Hunter when I went to sign up for an account. I've since learned that there's a lot of people with Goodwill Hunter as a handle who just like buying dresses and clothes and shoes at Goodwill, unfortunately.
Right, not just Mega Bloks.
Somebody's going to end up going down one of those rabbit holes and they're just going to be like, where's all the Mega Bloks he was talking about?
Rich, can you disclose the best places to find, over the last couple years, What have been your like treasure troves of finding Mega?
Well, I've been disclosing them probably to my chagrin.
Right.
It's actually shopgoodwill.com.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I have gotten tons of good stuff on there, but more people have found it, and just recently a lot of like 30 pounds of miscellaneous Mega Bloks went for $180.
Yeah.
Which is above my price range. I used to get stuff for $20-$30, but I don't mind sharing the stuff. There's so many good sources. Just watching for stuff to go on sale at Target, waiting for those things to reach the end of their life. If you can wait, you can always get a good deal on Mega Bloks. Mm-hmm. There's so few sets that I have regretted not buying or not waiting to buy. I think the only one, the Shadow Convoy, was the one that I waited to buy and wish I had bought up front and paid a pretty good penny to get that after it had been out for a while.
Yeah. I never got the Shadow Convoy.
It was a weird time because they used to do kind of Toys R Us exclusives every year, and when that set and the Halo 2 Anniversary Brute Pack came out alongside it, I can remember thinking that they'd be on shelves for a while, and then they just kind of disappeared after the first month, and it was like, oh, okay, good thing I bought those.
Some sets you just don't know, are they going to be there for a minute, or are they just going to fly? Like the Infinity set, you could get that for a while, but now the price is whoosh.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that had gone up, because there was a time where that was ridiculously good value. I mean, so anyone who listens knows my woes of having to import stuff. And when I came back from my holiday in America, I actually had a little bit of spending money left. So I decided to import the Infinity. And bear in mind, that's a massive box. Obviously, shipping would be a lot. It actually cost me what the RRP of a usual Signature Series set would be in the UK. So that was ridiculously cheap at the time.
Oh, nice.
Another good place to look for deals is Amazon Warehouse.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you can handle a dented corner of a box, you can get sometimes 50% off on a set. I just picked up the orange Phaeton. And it felt like, that feels like one of those sets that's going to suddenly disappear and triple in price. So I picked up one of those as well.
What about brick and mortar though? Like, where do you go out on your hunts? I mean, Goodwill, obviously, but is there any other places like pawn shops that have stuff? I feel like when I was starting to get into the collecting, I would try to figure out where this stuff was, where it was, wasn't having a ton of luck at the time because I think it's been dry for a little while now. But where do you go physically that maybe people wouldn't think of normally?
Boy, I don't have too many sources. I mean, I'm sure you guys have discussed the distribution issues with Mattel and Mega Bloks,
secondhand stuff, like Goodwill is secondhand or third hand, whatever. But I popped into a couple pawn shops, nothing really. I'm sure there's some stuff out there, and then there's like Facebook Marketplace you can find stuff on as well.
Yeah, I've had some luck on Facebook Marketplace, but brick and mortar is just Target and Ross, and now Walgreens of all places. Get them. But sadly, the Walmarts in my area have stopped carrying Mega now.
Yeah.
I picked up a set of Series 10 for $1 a piece on clearance, which was a great deal.
That's crazy.
But now they've totally cleared out their Mega section, and none of the new Alien Queen sets or the white Alien eggs are in there.
Oh, man.
So
I got to get that Alien Queen.
Yeah, it looks cool. But unfortunately, Walmart shut down in my area, so the actual brick and mortar choices just continue to fall away.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be back after the new year. I'm sure they're reacted to the Infinite push, the delay. So I'm expecting Walmart to have it.
Guys, if it makes you feel better, the first time I saw Mega Construx in stores in about 5 years was with Wave 1 of the Game of Thrones sets at Smith's.
Oh boy.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm kind of interested, Rich, and this is probably like the question that everybody would want to ask, because I feel like everyone's always like, "Oh, what's the biggest thing you've done?" So I'm interested. What is the biggest thing you've done, basically? What's the biggest mock you've put together?
Oh, it was probably the Infinity custom I did 5 years ago or so. That thing is pretty much 3 feet long.
Whoa.
And it's like a giant sub sandwich made out of gray blocks with antennas sticking out of one end. but just in terms of the physical size, it's probably the biggest set I've done. I also did a diorama of the Omaha Beach landing.
Yes, that looks fantastic.
I used a lot of the blocks from the toolkit that you talked about for that set, and then 2 of the landing sets, and that turned out really nice. That's one of my favorite videos on the channel. I used, what was it, Call of Duty Frontline music in there, and it just chokes me up to watch that. I just love World War II stuff, but that one, in terms of surface area, is probably the biggest. That's right next to me now on a shelf here in the basement, and I still got all the soldiers splayed out on there in the wall next to it. But
I'll tell you a fun story about that, actually. When you did that video, it made me realise that actually all of the World War II Mega Construx stuff can actually be used a lot more for historical reenactment and for kind of representing things in history. So when I left secondary school, I ended up giving my history teacher the only World War II set I had, which was the original flak cannon with the 2 US soldiers. So I don't know if he still has that. It's probably in a bin now. But after I saw that video, I was like, do you know what? There's a nice value to the history of these things. I'm going to give my teacher this set.
That's cool.
Yeah. Actually, I wish I had started with the Call of Duty, or at least picked up some, because I would have liked to have done some World War II stop motion. Because, I'm a huge history guy, so that stuff kind of just speaks to me.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So obviously you mentioned the Global Builders Community Toolbox there, and I feel like for a lot of people, when they think about that box, they kind of naturally have the association with you, because obviously you were the first person to get that, and I feel like intrinsically as well, a lot of the reason why that probably came about is because you started doing these large-scale builds, and then obviously other people got inspired by that and wanted to be a part of that. So I'm kind of interested with that toolbox. What was that whole experience like, and what kind of support did you get from Mega off the back of that?
Oh, it was an extremely cool program. They offered to refill it for life. Cool. Basically, as you used up the blocks, I think I refilled it twice, especially after the Omaha Beach diorama. I think I used up half that box, and they literally sent me a box with replacements for all of the sets or pieces I used.
Crazy.
And it was fantastic. Smokes. And it's such a shame that program ended, because I think they got close to a year's worth of people, and I was told they were going to have a big challenge for all the people who'd won a toolbox to have a custom contest and come up with like the ultimate toolbox person or whatever. And sadly, that was when Mattel bought Mega and shut down the program. But it is a nice little piece of history. It's basically the size of one of the signature sets, but when you open it up, there's these little drawers, cardboard boxes that you pull out, and they have lettered what the type of block is inside. And just a real cool kit for building customs, and it's really sad that it never came farther than it did.
Do you remember how many other people got one? I think, and you might be able to correct me here, I'm sure Scott or War Master got one. But I can't remember how many others got sent out.
I think there were at least 12 won in the monthly competitions, because then I think it was who was the community rep then that was very popular?
Was it Tim?
Tim. It might have been Tim, or the person, but Brad. Yeah, Brad. Either Brad or Tim. But like I said, they were planning a competition for the first 12 users, and it never came to be because of the change of ownership. I think they handed out another 3 or 4 to people who had never won a competition but were big contributors to the community. Risco Vinsheen was a name that comes to mind. He actually did the original Scarab custom. He did it one before mine. Matthew Carlson may have been another one. He was the first one to build a full 360-degree Enterprise bridge. And then I took his idea and built upon it. But there were a bunch of builders, especially in the early days, who just really, and on those earlier websites, were very community-oriented and posted builds a lot. It was much more of a build-focused community than now it seems to be a more figure-focused community.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think that that's maybe kind of shaped by the nature of the product and the fact that we, for a long time at least before the Infinite sets, were getting more figures and sort of like little sets than we were actual building sets.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't build if you don't have sets to build with. So if all you have is figures to work with, that's what people are going to work with. And not to speak ill of that community, because people do some amazing work with figures. I don't have a creative bone in my body in terms of creating something from scratch like that. I need blocks. But the people who sculpt these figures and bring them to life, like from the different universes, are just amazing and beautiful. So kudos to them.
Rich, I'm curious, how do you keep all of your, just kind of back to your building and custom work, how do you keep everything organized, all of your pieces? Like, what's your method?
Boy.
That would organized would again be not a term that my wife would apply to my hobby. But in terms of spare blocks, I've just got stacks and stacks of Stairlight containers.
Yeah.
And I separate them mostly by color.
Okay.
I have a few bins of little tiny detail pieces that would get lost in these bigger bins. And when I'm building a custom, I literally just pull all these out on the floor, and a lot of the time is spent searching for just that right block.
Okay.
Which is sometimes really frustrating, especially when you've found a right version of a piece and you need a left version of that same piece and you just can't find it.
Yeah. So do you dump the blocks on the floor or the table, or do you because we all know that sound of sifting through a bin full of blocks, right? Is that...
Well, that's a nice thing about those Stairlight containers. You can pull the bins out and put them on the floor, and generally I don't dump unless I'm totally frustrated and I can't find the piece. Then I dump it on the floor and have to search through.
Okay.
But they make it easy to kind of surround yourself with these empty bins and pull what you need to build. It's very relaxing, a lot of fun, but organized, I don't know if I'd call it that.
Right.
Organized chaos, perhaps.
Yes.
What size are the bins? Just curious, because I've done a little bit of organizing. I have some bins, but I don't feel like I don't have the best setup or the best organization method yet.
Well, they're literally bins of all sizes. There's some that are tiny drawers, some that are giant drawers, everything in beside. I've also just got some tubs for the most popular colors, white, black, and Battleship Gray. I can send you a picture of that, but well, again, most of these I found at Goodwill's over the years.
Sure.
So yeah, just different sizes for different needs, and I have to keep on buying more because I keep on having more spare pieces after building all this stuff. So
you buy now with the intention of just having them be spares?
It depends. If I get a really good deal on something, I'll pick it up if I don't have anything in mind. But if I have something in mind that I need, I'll go after that. I mean, the Star Trek sets, luckily, I bought those before they went crazy in price to build the bridge.
Right.
But on shopgoodwill.com, a lot of times you'll be able to get a good deal on the older Mega Bloks set, the Pro Builder sets.
Yeah.
If you need gray or black or white. I built a version of the Call of Duty house that on the Nuketown setting, if you guys are familiar with that. The front of they only did the front of the house, which gave you the green, but I needed the white to build the rest of the house, so I got an old space shuttle set that has a ton of white blocks, and that allowed me to build the whole house in 360 degrees. But generally, if I see a good deal on something, I'll pick it up, throw it on the back shelf, and if I need it, it's back there. And if not, I'll move on to something else.
And are you exclusively Mega, or do you mix in any Lego or other brands?
Heresy.
I am exclusively Mega.
Okay, cool.
Almost all of my builds are 100% Mega Bloks and 100% stock. I try not to paint anything. I try not to cut anything. I try to just use what's exactly there. As a matter of fact, I have a tub of nothing but Lego that I find when I buy these sets used. Invariably, there's Lego and Connects mixed in. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that.
In that big giant tub of Lego.
I have a big giant tub of Legos that I'll do something with someday.
Oh, that's funny. So have you noticed because the quality has changed over time, right? Does that become an issue when you're doing your custom builds at all with kind of the looser fit from the older sets?
To a limited degree. It's not nearly as bad as a lot of people say it is. I've got a lot of the military ships, the aircraft carriers, the destroyers, and they hold together just fine. I pull them out for pictures all the time, and I'm not having to redo them. The only problem is when you get some of the older used bricks, if they've been sitting out in the sun, they'll have a yellow tint on one side.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah, that's the curse.
Like my
the yellow
scarab.
Oh,
Right. Like Tom's
that just
scarab.
pains me. It just
I'm
hurts.
crying on the inside right now.
Sounds like you're crying on the outside too.
I'm close. My eyes are like welling up a little bit.
Oh man, that's awful.
Those blocks are good for the interiors of builds as well. So
good shout.
find a use for those as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, there is an obvious improvement in quality over the years, but it's not nearly as bad as a lot of people make, with the exception of the original Hornet set. That thing is awful.
Yeah.
That thing falls apart if you look at it.
I never got that set, and I always wanted it so much.
Oh, you're a lucky man.
I dodged that bullet.
I have parts of multiple. I just haven't put it all together yet. So
The oldest set that I had that probably gave me the most trouble was the Locust that came with the Goshawk. That one was just always falling apart on me.
yeah, that's the joints, right?
Yeah,
or
the
was
joints
it
were
the actual?
just-
Yeah.
Yeah.
The joints were bad, yeah. Oh, actually, the Banshee that came with the Hawk was the worst Banshee ever. Oh, gosh. It's just bad.
Was that their first Banshee too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yep.
It was archaic compared
There's
to the
really
new
been
set,
if you look at all the Banshees, that's probably one of the sets along with the Warthog that's gone along the most changes in design over the
Yeah.
years.
for sure.
I mean, when you look at the 10th anniversary comparison, it's night and day.
Oh, yeah.
I really like they did that. That was cool. So I did want to ask you, Rich, as well. So obviously, as you kind of mentioned sort of at the start of the show, a lot of your builds tend to be things which Mega haven't created. So things like the Halo Wars concept art, for example, which is really cool with things like the Fox Cannon. I remember that being a personal favourite build of mine that you did back in the day. So I'm interested, is there anything kind of across the board in all of those concepts that you haven't tackled yet, but you'd really like to have a go at one day?
Oh, the thing that really confounds me is the Lich. It's
Well,
just
yeah.
basic. It's a huge round Covenant vehicle, and I just can't conceive of a way to build it that would do it justice.
Yeah.
I tried once and just stopped because I couldn't do
Really?
it.
Huh.
Yep.
Because of the overall size, like you were trying to scale it too much.
Yeah, just trying to recreate that large round feeling, and at the time, and I think still, they just don't have the purple blocks that would allow you to do that. I was able to do the Covenant Battle Cruiser because it was more flat, made it easier to still build an organic shape out of the blocks they had in hand. But with the Lich, you're not only building the sides, you're building the top. It's like a big purple balloon.
Yeah.
And I could not come up with a way to do it that did it justice.
It's going to need some custom pieces for it, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So speaking of that, though, Rich, that makes me curious. Do you, for your customs, when you're done and you're happy with it, do you just leave it complete and put it on the shelf, or do you then repurpose the parts at any point?
With one exception, I have every custom I've ever built still with me.
Oh,
I am
awesome.
so happy to hear that. Do you please tell me the Bell Huey isn't the exception?
No, it is not. That's
Thank
right next
God.
to me as well. I love those helicopter builds.
Which one is
No,
it? I'm so curious now.
The only one I sacrificed early on, I built a miniature Spirit, which
okay.
it was maybe 3 or 4 inches long. That just had the 2 tuning forks and a little gun underneath. But when I was building my actual Spirit custom, I ran out of purple pieces, so I had to take that apart and use that to finish that build.
Oh man, and you've never gone back to build it?
No, I've still got a picture, but it's so dinky and silly that it would be kind of pointless to.
Yeah.
Well, now that you said that, maybe I'll go back and try to rebuild it.
The micro Spirit, I love it.
There you go.
So do you have all of your kind of like standard in the box builds displayed alongside all of your customs as well? Do you have like a big display for everything Mega Construx and Mega Bloks, or is it just kind of like the stuff that you've made yourself that goes out on display?
Yeah, I've got all the stuff, stock builds along with the regular builds, and actually I've been thinking about trying to come up with a more organized way to display them, but again, my laziness has prevented me from doing that. The most important factor in displaying them is which piece will fit next to the other piece that it's next to and not knock anything off, and you'll still be able to see it.
No, I relate to that. I've got a couple of bookcases and then some like sort of shallow square box design shelving units, and I'm always like, oh, what can I squeeze in next to this so it all fits together still and isn't going to fall off. And I've got a high ground at the moment that's got a falcon in front of it and then a pelican that's got a wasp landed on top of it, so I'm very much trying to squeeze stuff in.
Yeah, that pretty much describes my shelving as well.
Yeah.
It's definitely a hodgepodge.
The struggle is real.
So, I kind of feel like a nice thing to sort of end today's episode on would be looking ahead towards the future. So obviously we've now seen some gameplay footage for Halo Infinite, and unfortunately the game is delayed, but it will be coming out next year. So is there kind of anything you've seen in that gameplay so far that's really sort of taken your fancy and has inspired you to kind of get back into building stuff from the upcoming title?
Please don't say the banished Phantom. Just no. Just no.
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 Well, mostly for most of the commentary, I think what I need to build is a Craig head.
Oh, shoot.
Out of all the Battleship Gray I have sitting around, I think that would be the one thing I would do. But
that would be brilliant.
Make it a wearable
at this point,
helmet.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see what they do with the. I'm kind of disappointed that the few Banish sets they have not been more available.
Yeah.
I did a blister back custom out of Covenant Purple.
Yep.
That turned out nice, and I actually ended at one point colorizing it in Photoshop, so it had the banished colors on it. But I think I have one or two banished sets I've been able to pick up, the Ghost and the Banshee maybe. But it'd be nice if they either did the set or had enough pieces. Someone did a custom of a blister back that was just beautiful and large, but I don't know if they painted the pieces to get the colors they needed. But it'd be really nice if they came out with some larger banished sets that would allow building some of those customs.
I think I know the one you're thinking of because it was posted on the official forums, and I remember that thing was huge. Like, I just don't know where they would have started with that. Because like you say, there's really not the parts out there. But kind of on the flip side of that, I suppose, I'm quite interested when it comes to newer sets. Obviously, we've seen things like the UNSC building box, although it's not called the UNSC building box, it's just the Halo building box. But obviously, that's UNSC themed. So for you as a builder, do you see scope for them to do more stuff like that in the future, where it's maybe Covenant pieces with some Covenant printed details and then a Banish set, all that kind of stuff? Do you think that would be a good way to encourage more people to get back into building?
Absolutely. I mean, I've seen some of the stuff people have done with the color sets they have out now. There's a really cool flood-infected pelican that a couple people have posted that are beautiful, using the pieces from those new color sets. So, if they came out with more Covenant, I mean, imagine what you could do if they came out with a Banished set that was just nothing but red and gray in different shapes that would allow you to build a blister back or modify a Scarab so it would look like a Banished thing. That would be great.
Yeah.
Really hope that they do that.
100%. Like I said, I always wanted them to just do more things centered around terrain or something that you can build landscape with. So, I mean, anything where you can just build and make mocks and make these amazing designs is an excellent idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, they've done some of that with the Game of Thrones stuff.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if they came out with a Forerunner set that was just nothing but angled gray, so you could build some of the structures that you see in the game.
Yeah, the only thing we could have that's similar would probably be the Cauldron Clash set that came out. That was really the only Forerunner structure building that we have that's official, which is crazy to think.
I mean, I'm gonna break both of your hearts right now, but Rich, I'm sure you'll remember this, but at one point there was a prototype for the
beam emitter.
Oh, yeah. I think I've mentioned it before, haven't I? It wasn't the Halo Combat Evolved one though. It was Valhalla, that structure.
Yeah.
Because I know there was a time where there was a prototype of that and a Bumblebee, but they just never came to fruition again, so...
Was that one of the options in that contest that ended up with the scepter or the countdown set? It was either the Spirit, the countdown set, or Valhalla were the three options, and the countdown set got the most votes.
Yeah, honestly, it used to be so cool. Because Rich, you'll remember as well then, but obviously their NMPD subline literally came about because of a fan vote as well. So it was really cool back in the day how there used to be all that kind of interaction. But I don't... Yeah, it must have been that. And I think maybe they had prototypes for all three of them mocked up. Or maybe they came along the line. But I remember that never came to fruition. And it just always gutted me, because I'm sure you'll remember it as well, Rich, but Jesse had that really good build of it, and I was like, why can it just not be a set?
Yeah, and that's just true of so many customs that people have done. You just look at them and think, well, Mega obviously has the pieces to do this, since the fans are doing it themselves. Why can't Mega come out with a set like that?
Yeah.
And I love the NMPD line, too, was great. I had a lot of fun playing around with that and doing other police vehicles. I built a bomb squad out of one of the carrier sets, and a canine unit that uses the dog from the Blackhawk set. But yeah, it's a fun hobby. It lets you do whatever you want, and it keeps me young.
No, that's good to hear. I think that's quite a nice note to kind of round out the show there, you know? Matt, Colin, did you have any other questions that you wanted to get in at all?
I mean, I think I've been asking along the way. So, this has been a really good conversation, and I'm it's inspiring because I want to get to the point where I have the younger kids, so that's my excuse that I haven't done a lot of custom stuff. I'm more just like collecting and just building the sets that I get. But, talking to you and kind of hearing your journey through this is inspiring. I want to get to the point where I am doing some custom stuff of my own.
Yeah, man.
And I want to keep everything organized, and I have limited space too. And the collector struggle is real, right? It's a similar struggle because you're only allocated certain. Especially as an adult, married with kids, you're only allocated certain space in the house.
For sure.
So you need to maximize that. But I also want to enjoy it with my kids too, So
yeah, man.
Did you build with your kids along the way, or were they too old at the time when by the time you got into it?
Oh, I tried to. I have two daughters, and I tried to introduce them to builds and video games, and they ended up playing Miss Pac-Man and Tetris for video games and building up fairy communities out of Lego blocks. Uh-huh. So I happily played all that, though. I had a blast with my girls. But hopefully there's a grandson in my future that can enjoy all this crap someday.
Right.
They missed out by not being born to me a son. I hate to be sexist in that regard, but try to give the girls boy toys, and they turn it into something that has Disney princesses or My Little Pony in it. It's inevitable.
There's something to be said about that, and I have the three boys, and they're all boy, like traditional boy stuff. So I've enjoyed that, and it makes it expensive because I love toys growing up, and I just buy stuff that is in the closet that I may never get them. I give it to them. It's like, oh, they might like this, and then it's just the waiting to see if that's the right thing at the right time. But anyway, it's been fun. So this has been a good chat, Rich. I really appreciate your time.
Cool.
Well, I've enjoyed talking to you guys, and obviously this hobby requires creativity beyond just coming up with builds. It's finding creative way to store the stuff, finding creative ways to finance it.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Creative ways to pay for it without your wife kicking you out of the house. So.
Right.
Well, I've got all that to come.
Oh boy, touching off of just like the creativeness of stuff like that, and I've only done a couple of, I guess, custom builds or mocks, but it's more in the Lego area. But what kind of inspires you with these sets? Do you just find a vehicle that you like and try to replicate, or is it just what is like that driving inspiration to just build something?
Mostly it's seeing something in real life that you'd want reproduced in Mega Bloks that they're not doing for whatever reason. I mean, I've done a few builds that are just out of my own imagination. One comes to mind. I built a medical version of a Hornet, called it the Nightingale, and it kind of had the MASH chopper look where there were on the two skids, instead of that being footrests, I put canopies on there for supposed medical victims to be flown out, and made it in the red and white shape. And I also did one when the Reach, the final level with the big Mac cannon.
Oh, nice.
I did a mobile version of that because I had treads left over from some elephant sets where I used the green builds.
See, that's what I want. I want a Mac cannon.
I forgot that existed.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a neat, big, chunky build because it had to be heavy for that thing to fire on the ground. That was a fun one to put together. And then I built a four-bladed lifting platform for that as well. But really, most of the inspiration comes from seeing something in real life and thinking, how can I put that together?
Yeah.
And that's where printing out pictures and just trying to match it up as best as possible. And I mean, that inspiration not only comes from Halo, but from all the other properties like Star Trek and Terminator. I built the tank and the flying Terminator as well. So it's really just wanting to see these things come to life, and it's cool that Mega Construx now, which I still think is a dumb name, allows you to do that, and it's just something I enjoy, and I don't see myself stopping.
Yeah.
As old as I get, it's still fun to just go in the basement, pull all those drawers of blocks out, and put something together that no one has seen before.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Yeah.
Did you say you named one of yours the Nightingale, like before the Halo Wars 2 vehicle came around?
Yes.
Yep.
And a number of people pointed out, actually, in that Mac cannon on treads was called the Mastodon before the vehicle came out in Halo Wars 2, because those two forks of the Mac cannon to me look like tusks when it raised up in the air.
And there's a Mastodon in Halo Wars 2, yeah.
343 spying on you, man. I mean, I'm just saying.
They're using you for inspiration.
I'd like to think so, but there are just so many animal and ghost names that you can use, so I can't take too much credit for that.
Right. I think that's the beauty, of these brick-based constructions, whether it's Legos or Mega Construct, that you can, of course, you can enjoy the sets that they build and they give you, but to take it and make something uniquely your own is, I think, probably one of the strongest things about these types of sets. So I think it's a testament that your creativity and your stuff is just kind of, I think, the penultimate version of a brick builder.
And it, again, it's the passion. I mean, so many of the other people I've talked to are just passionate about this hobby and the properties that they're invested in. Like I said, I just fell in love with the game Halo Wars. One of my favorite games on the Genesis platform is a real-time strategy game called Dune: Battle for Arrakis. And I was thrilled that the control structure was basically identical how they used, which I suppose in these RTS games they're much easier to do on a keyboard and a mouse. But I've never really gamed that much on a PC. But I just fell in love with that game and wanted to do everything I could about it. Even the supply ships, the Darter, that was one of my favorite builds. Yeah. And there was almost nothing about it online. I ended up having to take screenshots from the game to get an idea how to put that together.
Wow.
And after I built it, I named it the Dragonfly because it had 4 engines on it. But then after I posted it, someone found a book of Halo art where they actually named that ship the Darter. And that's the only way I found out what it was actually named.
I didn't know that. So that's both in Halo Wars and Halo Wars 2, just a little ship that comes down to keep feeding you supplies. Interesting.
Yep, that's officially called the Darter.
Cool.
There was actually, Colin, I'm going to blow your mind here. There was going to be a set of a supply pad at one point in time.
That'd be cool.
I'll send you the prototype photo. I'll dig it out and send it over to you.
That would be nice to have a completed UNSC firebase.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like one that doesn't have just like a wall, but like actually like a fire base. Something completely encapsulated would be amazing.
Well, Rich, we have both lived through the torment of the original Firebase.
Which was amazing.
Popped up in Squad 45 before we got the eventual 2015 one.
Which was so many disappointments over the years. It's surprised that any of us stick with this hobby.
I know. That Firebase was amazing, though.
Yeah,
I was actually planning to build a Firebase at one point, but it would have been so huge as to be ridiculous. I built two of the buildings, the reactor and the barracks.
Yeah.
Put together.
Wow.
But just looking at the bricks that it would have taken to build all the other structures in there just was more than I could handle at the time. Someone has done a Covenant base recently that turned out really nice. Just tons and tons of Covenant blocks. So kudos to whoever did that. It turned out nice.
Nice.
I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he did like the fortified wall entrance and everything, didn't he? Because I kind of like flag things up as potential to talk about on the show in the future. So thank you for bringing that up, because that's something I want to go away and look into. So I kind of feel like that is the show in its entirety, really. It's been really fun kind of getting to break down, obviously, not just you building these sets, but also your relationship with the franchise. Just before we go, I'm going to hand it over to you, Matt, because I believe you had a community shout-out you wanted to make.
Yeah, I have a couple. So recently, our good pal John on the Drift did some fan art or some show art for the Builds with Block show. It's a really neat little diorama type thing. We look way cooler in his design than we do when we're really recording.
Right.
It's amazing, and it's really touching that someone would, take the time to build that. So thank you, John. You're amazing. And I just want to give a quick, also amazing shout out to your son. I'm so happy that you guys listen and enjoy listening to the show. So thank you so much. You guys are really amazing. And I got one more shout out. So this gentleman is named, let's see, I guess it's Dark Blue, but it's the B is an 8. So it's Dark 8 Lou. And he tagged Tom in a quick little stop motion, and then Tom tagged me of his infinity. It's really awesome. I love the idea of having this infinity move through space. So that's at Dark Blue 1. So everyone go over and give that guy some love and a follow, because he has put together, it's a short little clip, and I encourage everybody to go watch it. So definitely take your time to do that, because these, when you start out doing stop motion, it's really nice to have a bunch of people comment on it and kind of boost your morale to make more. So go over and check that guy out, and thank you again, John. You guys are fantastic.
Yeah, and with Blue, actually, I just wanted to add, it was nice to hear that he had been inspired to start doing stuff off the back of some of the content that we'd been sharing. So it's nice to know that there's still new fans coming into this hobby every day as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was cool. So we will round out the episode there then. Rich, why don't you let people know where they can find you online?
If you go into either the Facebook groups, Mega Bloks Flans or Mega Bloks Worldwide, I'm on there. The Bloks Forum still exists in a smaller form as well. And then again, you can see most of the builds I've done on my YouTube channel. Search under Goodwill Hunter, or the username is GWHunter1.
Yeah, perfect. We'll make sure to link all of that in the show notes as well. Matt, what about you? Where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube at Pure Genius Lego Studios. You can also find me on the Twitter tweeting about DC and the Snyder Cut at Pure Genius Lego. And I'm also on Discord. I will promise to pop in there a little more.
I cannot make that same promise.
Do it.
And then, Colin, which page of Google are we on today, sir?
Oh, man.
The ongoing saga.
Yeah, double digits now.
Jeez.
Find myself eventually. Check me out or follow me on Twitter. And I'm decently active, more so than I have been over the last couple of years. But yeah, check out the Discord, the Podcast Evolved Discord. There is a couple channels in there. There's ones for toys and collectibles, and then we have one for Builds with Blocks specifically. And there are quite a few people in there that enjoy the hobby and have some good conversations, just some good sharing in there as well. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, and Colin also asked some pretty interesting questions for Mission Debrief, so go and check those. Yeah, give a good answer to that.
Yeah.
Spirit of Fire Disco.
We'll start doing more community questions for the show as well.
Yeah, we definitely should.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Well, you guys can find me at Tom_Jurassic on Twitter and Instagram. Obviously, mainly sharing Jurassic stuff, but that's where all of my Halo stuff goes as well. And also keep an eye out on the Mega Construx forums, because I'm over there sharing photos on the gallery now and then. So with all that said, that will do it for the show. So thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Builds with Blocks. If you like the show, feel free to support Podcast Evolved on Patreon. And until the next time, Evolved.
Thanks for having me on, guys. This was a blast. Evolved!
Woo!
I didn't listen to the end of any of your previous podcasts. Do you guys have a blooper reel at the end of all these shows, or?
And we're live.
Hello.
Tell me.
Okay.
I'm Batman.
I was literally about to start then.
Oh my gosh. Do it, Tom. Rip it off like a Band-Aid.
Welcome to Build. Every time Anonymous Goose flashes up. I just need to stop laughing at Anonymous Goose. It's just the most hilarious name ever. Okay.
I can't. All right.
Am I supposed to say evolved here?
Yeah, man. Go for it.